Okay, I just want to say a word about the method of the course and how you can get the most out of it. First of all, it's a really good idea to know who you're being taught by, because that'll give you the context in which you can understand the stuff I'm saying and sometimes understand how it might apply better to your particular case, or worse to your particular case. I hope better. So I'm a documentary filmmaker by profession. I've been doing it for more than 20 years and had the privilege to make more than 40 films around the world for many of the world's major television networks. So the BBC, Arte in France and Germany, PBS in America, for example. And principally, certainly in recent years, I've done long-form documentary films. So films which are basically 80 or 90 minutes long and require a considerable amount of scripting, storytelling, and really getting into the guts of the way a story works. Because believe you me, to get a 80 or 90 minute film to engage and retain the engagement and attention of an audience ain't easy. So a lot of the storytelling stuff I'm going to teach you in this course has come from practical experience of basically wrangling films through the hellish weeks and weeks and weeks of editing down to a point where they actually work as films. And that involves principally story and storytelling. There are other things, but the story and storytelling is the absolute foundation of that, okay? Now, another thing I do is I'm actually an audiobook narrator. And what I do is work with a number of different writers. And so I'm working principally actually across fiction in the audiobooks I'm doing. And that requires, first of all, understanding how a book and how the story inside a book functions, how the structure of that story works inside a book, prior to actually prepping it and then actually narrating it, because the narration involves an understanding of the tone and voice, perspective, dynamics inside the book. It also involves an understanding of how to act the various parts inside a book, the various characters, which might sound a bit like this, but you have to choose, make choices about character and narrative, perspective, tone, and all that stuff when you do an audiobook as a narrator. And so that again comes from a storytelling perspective, but it also gives me the privilege of actually seeing different ways of putting stories together. And when you actually narrate stories, you actually voice them, you actually read them aloud, you actually perform them, act them aloud in fact, then you get a unique insight into the guts of story when it comes to fiction, which I think not everyone gets. Even the writers don't necessarily get that, because you can write something, and I am a writer, but when you actually start to voice something and put it into the ether, if you like, you get, if you like, an advanced perspective on the way the story works. Let's put it that way. A few years ago, I founded a group called Storyoptic, which is for all sorts of disparate folk, from filmmaking, writing, marketing, communications, and God knows what, to come into that group and actually swap experiences about the stories they are doing and the way that works. And so I get some feedback and experience from other people using storytelling in different ways. And finally, I find myself a kind of story consultant for some people, where people need a trailer, they need a teaser, they need a series concept, they might be getting into research for something. And so on an ad hoc basis, I find myself actually consulting people on story. And sometimes they think that they're asking me to actually help them with a script, for example, or with a trailer, with the form of a trailer. But actually what it really boils down to is an understanding of how that particular story can work best, and framing it in a storytelling structure first before getting into the detail of actually trying to script something. So anyhow, that's who I am, and that's the, if you like, the point of view with which I'm teaching you through this course. Course style, and I'm going to make no apology for this, I know it's very informal. I know the camera angle's pointing up at me. I know you've got a whole bunch of text on the screen, and it ain't fancy graphics or nothing super duper schmancy, okay? That is the way I like to teach when it comes to Udemy. If you don't like it, please refund this course right now. Get your money back. Don't waste your time going through any of the other lectures if you feel you're not going to learn in this fashion. If you feel you need to have 100,000 slides or sophisticated animations or a highly scripted course, this ain't the course for you. Believe me, you want to go elsewhere. But if you feel that you're going to get something out of this course, do stay with. It'd be great to have you here. Take notes as you go through this course. Grab a pen and paper and just take ad hoc notes, far quicker than typing stuff up. Also allows you to doodle. and to make little lines and mind maps and things as you're studying. It's by far the best way I've ever found to actually absorb something. There's something to do with the neurological feedback when you actually handwrite and the brain that actually puts information into your mind in a different way to when you're actually typing. Sorry for the typists, sorry for the word processing crowd out there, but that has been my constant experience. I do use Scrivener when I write, which is a software app and everything else, but I absolutely use pen and paper when I'm trying to absorb ideas and play with ideas as I'm trying to follow a course. So I hope that tip will help you as well. Finally, a word about reviews. Udemy has a very strange system where they start nagging and asking you for reviews and feedback very early on in the course. And this irritates some people, and they score courses at 0.5 star or 1 star very early on. And that can absolutely kill us instructors, because that kind of review basically downgrades the entire course. No one else wants to buy it. No one else wants you to even consider it. And the course just dies. So please, 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 get a bit through the course before you decide to give me 0.5 star, if such is your intent. On the other hand, you may love the course, in which case you can score me higher. That would be great. But do at least, please, consider some of the actual course, work through it a bit before you actually decide to grade it or review it. Because otherwise, frankly, if you're basing it on a handful of minutes or the very start of a course, that really isn't enough to actually give a fair appreciation of what you actually think of the stuff I'm teaching. Okay, so I would ask you to do that. And then at the very end of the course, you'll see a bonus lecture, and in there you'll find a link into StoryOptic where you can actually come and join my group and be part of that storytelling community. Okay, so that's it. That's the method of the course. That's how it all works. I hope that works for you. Let's move on.